Ever wonder why you can forgive almost everyone except yourself? Why a small mistake can haunt you for days? Why a compliment feels temporary but criticism feels permanent? Maybe you've noticed something strange. You speak to yourself in ways you would never speak to another human being. One missed opportunity, one awkward conversation, one forgotten task. And suddenly your mind becomes a courtroom. The evidence is selective, the verdict is predetermined, and somehow, you're always guilty. But what if being hard on yourself isn't actually a personality trait? What if it's a survival strategy that never learned when the danger was over? The invisible contract. You may look successful from the outside, responsible, thoughtful, self-aware, the person who always tries, the person who always cares, the person who never wants to be a burden. Yet beneath that image is often an exhausting secret. No matter what you accomplish, it never feels like enough. You reach a goal and immediately move the finish line. You solve one problem and begin searching for another. You collect achievements the way a starving person collects breadcrumbs. Because somewhere deep inside, there is an invisible contract. A contract that says, I am only worthy if I perform. I am only lovable if I don't fail. I am only safe if I stay vigilant. And without realizing it, you begin treating yourself like a machine instead of a human being. Every flaw becomes evidence. Every mistake becomes identity. Every weakness becomes a threat. The strange part? Most people living this way don't even realize they're doing it. They simply call it having high standards. But there is a difference between growth and self-punishment. One helps you evolve. The other slowly teaches you that you are never enough. Where the inner critic was born. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The voice that attacks you today often wasn't created today. It was inherited, learned, conditioned. Psychologists call this the development of a core schema, a deep belief about who you are and what you must do to deserve acceptance. Maybe praise only came when you achieved something. Maybe mistakes felt dangerous. Maybe emotional needs were ignored. Maybe being good became your safest role. Over time, the nervous system adapts. This is where hypervigilance enters the picture. Hypervigilance isn't just watching the world. It's watching yourself, constantly scanning for flaws, constantly monitoring behavior, constantly trying to prevent rejection before it happens. Then another process develops. Psychologists call it conditional self-worth. Your value becomes attached to outcomes. Success equals safety. Failure equals threat. And eventually, the brain stops needing external critics because it learns how to criticize itself. The prison guard moves inside, and that's when something tragic happens. The very strategy designed to protect you becomes the source of your suffering. Why this isn't your fault. If you're seeing yourself in this, there is something important you need to understand. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not failing at life. Your brain adapted. That's what brains do. Children are remarkable survivors. When love feels uncertain, they adapt. When approval feels conditional, they adapt. When mistakes feel dangerous, they adapt. The problem is that survival adaptations often outlive the environments that created them. Imagine carrying an umbrella every day because it rained during one season of your life. Years pass, the sky changes, the storm disappears, but the umbrella remains. That's what many forms of self-criticism are. Old protection wearing new clothes. What you call perfectionism may actually be fear. What you call discipline may actually be anxiety. What you call motivation may actually be self-protection. The goal isn't to judge these patterns. The goal is to understand them. Because understanding dissolves shame, and shame is often the fuel that keeps the cycle alive. The hidden cost. The tragedy of being hard on yourself isn't that you suffer, it's that you suffer alone. Because nobody sees the battle. Nobody sees how many conversations you replay, how many mistakes you relive, how many victories you dismiss, how many impossible standards you try to meet. You might struggle to rest because rest feels undeserved. You might struggle in relationships because you fear being fully seen. You might struggle with boundaries because your worth depends on being useful. You might overwork, overthink, overanalyze, overexplain. Not because you are defective, Because your nervous system learned that safety lives on the other side of perfection. But perfection is a horizon. You can spend your entire life running toward it and never arrive. The Stoic philosopher Seneca observed that we often suffer more in imagination than reality. The self-critical mind proves that every day. It creates threats where none exist, punishments before crimes, failures before attempts. And gradually, life becomes something you evaluate instead of experience. The real reason you're hard on yourself. Here's the insight most people never hear. The opposite of self-criticism is not laziness. The opposite of self-criticism is truth. Because the truth is this: you were never supposed to earn your humanity. You already had it. The harsh voice inside your head promises transformation. It says, if I criticize myself enough, I'll finally become worthy. But worthiness isn't the destination. Worthiness is the starting point. Jung believed that healing comes not from becoming perfect, but from becoming whole. And wholeness means welcoming the parts of yourself you spent years trying to eliminate. The scared part, the tired part, the uncertain part, the imperfect part. Not because they are strong, but because they are yours. This is where shadow work begins. Not fixing yourself, meeting yourself. This is where reparenting begins, giving yourself the compassion that was once missing. This is where nervous system regulation begins, teaching the body that it no longer needs to live in constant evaluation. And maybe that's the deepest truth of all. You are not hard on yourself because you hate yourself. You are hard on yourself because some part of you learned that criticism was the price of safety. But you don't have to keep paying that price forever. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is not to be fixed. The goal is to become whole. So tonight, pay attention to the voice that speaks when nobody else is listening. Ask yourself a simple question. If someone I loved was struggling the way I am, would I speak to them like this? And if the answer is no, maybe that's where healing begins. Not with another achievement, not with another correction, but with a different conversation. One that finally allows you to be human. If you recognize yourself in this video, comment yes below. Not for the algorithm, but as a quiet acknowledgement that you're beginning to see the difference between who you are and the voice that told you who you had to be. And if this helped put words to something you've felt for years, subscribe to Curiora. Because sometimes the most important discoveries aren't about understanding the world. They're about understanding yourself.